In the black outskirts of the solar system, where sunlight fades into a cold blue whisper, Neptune drifts like a world from a forgotten dream. It is beautiful from afar and merciless up close, a planet of hurricane winds, frozen darkness, and pressure so immense that matter itself begins to change its nature. And yet, against all instinct, we still ask the forbidden question: could life exist there? When we say the word life, imagination almost always paints something familiar: warmth, water, solid ground beneath our feet, a sky under which one can breathe, the soft light of a star, the smena dnia I noci, rain, clouds, oceans. But the universe again and again shatters our earthly habits like thin ice beneath an alien weight. And Neptune is one of those places where the very idea of life seems like madness. The last great planet of the solar system, a blue giant on the farthest edge of our known solar home, a world where the sun no longer reigns, but only faintly reminds us of itself as a dim, distant spark. If you saw Neptune from close range, it would astonish you not even by its size, but by a kind of alien, almost inhuman beauty. Its deep blue color seems calm, almost noble, but that calm is deceptive. Beneath that cold azure lies one of the most ferocious weather machines in the entire solar system. Winds on Neptune reach speeds before which the most destructive hurricanes on Earth would look almost like a household draft. There, streams of gas rage faster than sound. There, gigantic dark vortices appear and vanish like cosmic wounds in the atmosphere. There, clouds of methane ice race over an abyss into which no human being could ever step. And yet it is here, at such a distance from the sun, that one of the strangest mysteries begins. Neptune receives from our star only pitiful remnants of heat. The sunlight there is hundreds of times weaker than on Earth, and it would seem that this world should be almost dead, frozen to the last molecule. But no, Neptune radiates more energy than it receives. It has an internal source of heat. In the very heart of this icy planet, a hidden furnace seems to keep burning, and that changes everything. Because when we talk about the possibility of life, we are not speaking only about sunlight. Life, as we know it, needs three great conditions: liquid, chemistry, and energy. And if on Neptune's surface, if that word can even be applied to Neptune, there is a cold of nearly 200 degrees below 0 Celsius, if the pressure in the depths quickly becomes monstrous, if instead of soil there is an endlessly descending ocean of gas and super-dense fluid, the question still does not disappear. It only becomes more complicated. Where exactly does the impossible end? And does life have to resemble Earth life in order to be called life? Neptune is called an ice giant, but that name lies a little too. This is not a world with an icy crust one could walk upon. It is a gigantic sphere made mainly of hydrogen, helium, and methane, and deeper down of water, ammonia, and other substances in states that on Earth are nearly impossible to see. The farther down you go, the more terrifying physics itself becomes. The atmosphere thickens, the pressure rises, the temperature, on the contrary, increases. And somewhere in those monstrous depths, the familiar boundaries between gas, liquid, and ice begin to blur. Matter becomes something in between, strange, almost alien, not in appearance, but in its very essence. Can life be imagined there? On the surface, if that word can be used at all for Neptune, almost certainly not. Too cold, too violent, too unstable. There is no solid ground there, no calm seas, no place where complex molecules could slowly gather into the first living systems. The upper layers of the atmosphere are a kingdom of murderous cold and brutal turbulence. Deeper down are regions where pressure would crush any form of organism known to us before it even had time to understand what was happening to it. If life on Neptune is possible at all, it must be not merely different. It must be almost unimaginable. And this is where the most fascinating part of the reflection begins. Perhaps searching for life on Neptune in the familiar sense is the wrong idea. Perhaps the better question is this: are there layers there where temperature, pressure, and chemical composition briefly align into something at least marginally acceptable? Some scientists allow that in the atmospheres of giant planets, there may theoretically exist zones where conditions are gentler than above and below. Not a surface, but a belt suspended within the body of the planet. Not land and not ocean, but a slowly drifting kingdom of clouds. A world without soil. A world without a horizon. A world where life, if it is possible at all, must float. Such an idea sounds like science fiction, but is not life on Earth itself science fiction made real? For here, on our own world, there are organisms that until recently seemed impossible. Creatures living in boiling hydrothermal vents, microbes enduring monstrous radiation, forms of life that feed not on sunlight, but on the chemical energy of the deep. The more we learn about life, the less it resembles a fragile flower. Rather, it is a stubborn fire trying to ignite in any crack of reality where even the faintest chance is left to it. But Neptune still remains an extremely harsh candidate. Even if somewhere in its atmosphere there is a layer with relatively gentle conditions, everything around it changes too quickly and too violently. Winds carry matter at colossal speeds. Vertical currents may lift and hurl particles into completely different regions, where temperature and pressure are already lethal. And the chemical environment there is far from a cozy cradle. This is not a planet that invites life. This is a planet that seems to test the very idea of life for strength, and almost mockingly asks, well then, will you try to survive here? There is another mystery too, almost poetic in its strangeness. In Neptune's depths, as models suggest, carbon under colossal pressure may turn into diamond. Imagine that picture. Deep beneath the blue atmosphere, in darkness where neither dawn nor human sight exists, where pressure is so immense that the familiar laws of everyday reality break, diamond crystals may be born and fall downward. On Earth, diamond is a symbol of luxury, rarity, almost eternity. But there, it may be merely a form of rain in a world that will never see a single ray of warmth. And beside such a vision, the question of life becomes even more thrilling. If nature is capable of such incredible chemistry, what other miracles might it be capable of in places we still cannot reach? But perhaps the main answer is hidden not on Neptune itself, but beside it. This planet has Triton, a large moon, cold, strange, probably once captured from the far reaches of the solar system. And there, subtler, more tempting hints already appear. Beneath the icy shells of some distant worlds, internal oceans may be hidden. And where there is an ocean, internal heat, and chemistry, astrobiology begins to listen especially carefully. Paradoxically, by asking about life on Neptune, we almost inevitably come to think about life near Neptune. Sometimes the planet itself is too cruel, but its moons preserve what the host world lacks: hidden, dark, but potentially habitable water. And yet Neptune matters not only as a possible home for life, but as a mirror of our ignorance. We know so little about it that it is almost embarrassing. The only spacecraft ever to visit Neptune was Voyager 2, which sped past it at the end of the 1980s. One brief visit, one glance over the shoulder, a few images, a few measurements, a few astonishing discoveries, and then silence lasting decades. Imagine if Earth were judged by a single airplane flying over an ocean and seeing only part of a continent. That is roughly how we know Neptune so far. So the honest answer sounds like this. Most likely, life on Neptune itself, in the form we understand it, is improbable. Temperatures, pressures, and chemical conditions are simply too extreme. But to close the question completely would be the sort of arrogance for which science has more than once paid with its own mistakes. Too often we have said the word impossible, only to discover that nature had never read our prohibitions. Neptune teaches humility. It teaches us that worlds are not obliged to be convenient for our imagination, and that sometimes the most important discoveries begin not with certainty, but with honest wonder. Perhaps one day humanity will send a new mission to Neptune. A spacecraft capable of studying its atmosphere, magnetic field, rings, and moons for a long time, perhaps even dropping a probe into the depths of the blue giant. And then, for the first time in many long decades, the darkness at the edge of the solar system will speak to us a little more clearly. Perhaps it will confirm that this world is completely dead for biology. Or perhaps it will give us a new crack in the wall of the unknown, a tiny one, but enough for the light of a new idea to break through. And perhaps that is where the greatness of such questions truly lies. We are not asking only about life on Neptune. We are asking how far life itself can go, how wide the imagination of the universe really is, how narrow our ideas still are about what it means to be alive. And every time we look at that distant blue sphere lost in an icy abyss, we see not merely a planet. We see the boundary between knowledge and mystery. Thank you for traveling on this journey with me. If you enjoyed this video, support the channel with a like and write in the comments whether you think life can exist in such incredible worlds. If you would like to help the channel grow and support future episodes, you can support us through Patreon or other support services. And of course, subscribe so you do not miss new journeys to the most mysterious corners of the universe. Stay with us, and until next time.